Hey guys, we are live. How's it going today? Just
Today
talking to the
good.
boys here. Had a little bit of issue with a truck with a carrier today. Carrier did a great job with it though. So I was just kind of running here at the last minute. Hey, we got Jason Rabin with us today. Let you guys know him as the knucklehead on LinkedIn. Yeah, I think one thing that kind of attracted us to each other, not physically, is we're both kind of the same type of person when it comes to saying what needs to be said or how we feel or what the actual reality is compared to, what people want us to say. I've always kind of been like that, but we both do a good job keeping it, on the line at least. Yeah, Jason's
trying to.
He's towed over a couple times, but
I straddle the line. There's definitely times where I'm like, I should delete this. Yeah. You told me something that I should do a long time ago. You said I should write myself an email and sleep on it. That way when I wake up the next day, I realize how stupid I sounded. But before I know it, I'm hitting send and I just walk away from LinkedIn and I let the shit slide. And it's kind of why I stepped away, though. I found myself being surrounded by people that I wouldn't share lunch with more often than not, people that I wouldn't invite to the family barbecue, and I try to keep my circle small. I'm not a part-timer in this business. I'm a full-timer. I'm fully invested. All 10 toes are in the stand. I'm standing on business. And I don't want to engage with people that don't bring value or bring the best out of me. And I found myself being petty and, not providing value myself. So I stepped away and it's been nice. And so in the last month, I actually bought a truck and activated our MC. We've got an asset up and running as of next Wednesday. So we're going to bring in some owner operators. We're going to start dispatching. So we're diversifying our offerings to our customers, and our agents now have multiple revenue streams outside of just brokering. So, it's been a good pivot.
Nice.
Good.
Long ago, I was accused of being a broker basher more than once as a shipping guy. And all I've ever done was try and highlight the good guys. And,
I've known you a long time, Tony. I've never once thought you bash brokers ever. Ever.
I get it a lot. Because there's so many bad actors out there that you just, you got to highlight the good and just, instead of complaining, just highlight the good ones and see what you can do to make the bad ones that are, you can kind of tell the people that are new and bad versus experienced and bad.
And there's a difference. There's a difference because new and bad, you don't know what you don't know yet. But if you're old and bad, you're choosing to be that way.
Right. That's a huge difference.
We've had great conversations about it because that's when I really jump in and try to highlight, how important management is. Because at the end of the day, a lot of it comes down to that, and how they're, preaching to their guys how to do things, specifically. But it's been pretty cool.
I don't have to worry about managing. I don't have employees, but our company brand has a reputation, and I am cognizant that my customers see my content, my agents see my content, and their customers see my content. So while I don't have to answer to anybody, I am very self-aware that what I say and do has a ripple effect. So I don't necessarily have management issues per se, but I have character issues that are my own issues that I have to press pause on sometimes. And I'll pick up the phone and call some of my agents and say, hey, if you ever have a problem with something that I say on LinkedIn, I will remove it in a heartbeat. I'm not opposed to being, and like the people that I want to surround myself with will call me on my bullshit. There's a reason why you're in my circle. I expect you to tell me when I'm out of pocket. That's what a good friend does. And now I'm not always going to listen to you, and I may even argue with you until you're an idiot. But your job as my friend is to be like, dog, what are you doing? Right? And so if you don't have those people in your life, you're just towing your own line across the ego train, and you're bound to fail it. You're going to crash and burn. And I don't want to do that. I've worked way too hard to get where we are. So I'm comfortable being told that I'm wrong. I don't have a problem with that.
We've had those conversations, haven't we?
You've called me and said, oh, homie, you got to take that down. And I was like, yeah, speak.
Well,
tell me what you got for me. And sometimes I listen and sometimes I tell you hit your head. But that's what good friends do. We can have that dialogue.
Right. And that's what we mentioned too when we even had the conversation. It's been pretty cool to follow your journey and a couple other people's too, because Tony probably feels the same way. You don't realize how long we've been doing this.
Yeah.
We all went through those phases, where we thought we were untouchable. And you get that little bit of, you do get some,
little ego
LinkedIn fame or whatever. Yeah, you get a little ego going.
No,
and then you realize at the end of the day,
I have never once thought I was LinkedIn famous or that I was an influencer.
Right. Well,
me
yeah, but I mean, like,
never.
At the end of the day,
it's such a dirty word too. It's a dirty word to me. Like, I'm here to connect with friends and grow my knowledge and my network. I'm not here to win a popularity contest. More often than not, more people probably dislike me than like me. And I don't lose sleep over it. I don't worry about what people think about me. But I'll tell you this, keeping it authentic herds the people that are like-minded into the right corral.
Yep.
And this is the best part about the customer scenario. When a customer calls me because they know of me on LinkedIn, they know what they're getting. There's no feeling out period. There's no let's be friends for a week and realize one of us just is not a good fit. You know what you're going to get. And so it mitigates that like honeymoon phase where you have to, cheap rate on that first load and bang them on the second. Like, we don't have to play that game. I charge what I charge. I'm good at what I do. I don't fail well. And if that's what you want, I'm right here. And if that's not what you want, there's 1,000 other personalities out there that fit your bread and butter.
We've done that, Tony. How many times have we, when you really look at it, like I said, me and you having a conversation, I even brought up Tony, when he, me and him are the type of friend where we'll tell each other, what we don't want to hear, but we know it, but we know we need it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so like, even when I was having that conversation with you, Jason, I still like mentioned that, like, hey, I've had people do this for me. I'm just doing it for you. And you've always been really, really good about it. But what me and Tony have seen, too, like what you just said, we've always kept it authentic and real. And, Tony, I was thinking about it, when I texted you today about, the background and everything. I'm like, don't change. Like this is how we've always been. And, I've been in executive roles and still technically am. And I don't want to get away from how I really am in the circle I've built, because I've seen it already happen. Like, how many people we start with, Tony? Unbelievable amount of people in our network, when we first really started. And then some of them got real big, and all of a sudden now they're just, you don't ever hear from them. They don't answer you. They don't talk to you. There's people that stuck, Inga Brown, Jolly, Trey, those guys like that from the beginning. Yep. Absolutely. But then you gather some other ones too that are authentic and real too. And I think that's a big thing, because at the end of the day, man, I'm not in this to, especially I think me being on the asset side too, and then Tony being down like in the in the trenches on the docks, it does give you a different type of mindset of just like, like this is just how it is, man. This is how it is. You can imagine whatever, when you work in a field or whatever, and you feel like you kind of like in your head, you picture whatever it is until you get down there and actually get involved in it and get around it. Then you realize that this shit isn't, this is what it is. It's reality. Either buck up or shut up, because at the end of the day, nobody else cares.
A lot of what we do is black and white. It's real simple. People make it gray. It's black and white. You do right and you do wrong, and you choose to do right or you choose to do wrong. There's you can't claim ignorance in freight. I mean, you just can't. It's not one of those things where you can just stumble up in it and you're golden and hit the ground running. I've been doing this 12 years. Every day I learn something new, and I'm like, damn, like you can't write a training manual for what the three of us do. It's all experience based, because Tony and I could have the same problem today and we're going to handle it differently. It's situation specific. It's customer specific. It's personality specific. Right. So like
experience specific too.
Yeah. And there isn't a wrong answer for a lot of what we do. Right. Like we can both handle it, or all of us handle it in a different way, and it could still get resolved. And so that's what I love about it. It's like, it's not monotonous. I don't sit here all day and just bang my head against the wall going, this is so boring. When my phone doesn't ring for an hour and then it does ring, I get this excitement / terrified. Yep. Like, is this a good phone call or a bad phone call? If you're fixing a problem, or making money. Like, uh-oh. But it keeps your
life. You hang your emotions on it, Tony. I mean, you think about, people talk about that with football, and I'm the same way with football too. But Tony had a big breakthrough today with a good customer or whatever. And he's like, that just made my weekend. And I just, when he said that, I remember thinking, it's so true. I remember having like a bad day, and I made it a mission to do something or find something or have a breakthrough of some sort so that I have a good night.
Yeah.
Right. Like there's always something you can do to turn it around because there's always something to do.
Yeah.
And the good thing about logistics is, like you were saying, you can have the same problem, you and I, today, and we both solve it differently, but you can have that same problem again tomorrow and solve it differently again. And that's
100%.
what makes it awesome.
100%.
Always something different. It's not like widget A, widget B, connect them, move on. Widget A, widget B. So you can have those same problems over and over and resolve them. And
that's what AI does. We're never gonna let that happen. Like the human touch is the best part about it because we get to make the decisions. That's why anybody who comes at me sideways and says AI, there's the door, not here. That'll never be my answer ever. We'll never have AI chat. We'll never have AI phone trees. None of that stuff. If you call me, the phone rings, I pick it up, bang, here we go. Right? Like it's always going to be that way for me. I'm never.
It'll serve its purpose for people like us for maybe efficiency on back end stuff. But outside of that, we've made our career by
forward facing. The minute it's forward facing, you've just given up your competitive edge. You know, and I'm not afraid to say it. I'm probably one of the few that are like, no automation. We're not doing that. I don't need. I'm not going to name names, but there's tech companies out there that promise me that I'm going to make more money and book better freight. And I've looked at all their tech. And I've run it against my manual processes, and I laugh at some of this stuff. I'm like, dude, your robot is high today. That robot smoked a split at lunch because there's no chance I'm winning freight if I'm running my business based on your data. Ever. Sorry.
It serves a purpose, and I think it's built around a lot of that tech's built around certain, again, like you said, circumstances, types of shippers, types of things where, somebody that had experience with this type of customer and how their freight was bid out and how it was, managed, and said, man, there's got to be a better way to do this. And so they figure it out. Then they try to apply it to everything else. And it's like Jason's customers are a lot different than my customers, which are a lot different than Tony's, right? I mean, like it's all, it's all different.
I mean, if you're doing 3,000 loads a year at 3% margin and you have to find a way to be ultra competitive, cool. There's a couple, 3 initial big boys out there that run on that operation. I'd rather book 50 loads a month at 25% margin and call it a day, knowing that I had my hands in every single one of those. I rated them personally. I booked the truck and I made money. Like I tell agents all the time, I'm also a broker. I still broker freight. I have my own book of business. The minute that I stop wanting to book freight for my customers, I won't do this anymore. I don't do this for the agent side of it. If that's just me giving back for the opportunity that I had to get where I am, sure, we make a little bit of money, but on the agent side, you really don't make a lot of money. It's very minimal. But it's great to be able to provide that runway for people who fit the mold that want to work for themselves and make their own decisions and be grown-ups and not, punch the clock and follow the herd. Like,
and you have that luxury too. So like again, everybody's situation is different. So you have the luxury of saying, hey, I built something myself to where I could just do this if I wanted to. How now I can be picky. I can be picky on who I bring in, right? Because if I'm doing everything and I got to be hands-on, I don't have time to train newbies. I don't have time to do this or that. If you're coming in with something like that, and that's a good spot to be in. That's probably one of the more desirable spots to be in if you can get there. But you had to work your way to get there. I mean, it didn't just happen. Right?
This is what freedom looks like. I don't work with customers I don't want to work with. I don't take the loads I don't want to take. I don't hire carriers that I don't like. Pretty that's the ultimate freedom to me. It's not the money. It's not being able to work from wherever. It's the freedom to choose who I do business with. Right. Like I would,
and you got to be patient.
I would take a pay cut to keep this set up because there isn't that unmanageable stress over there, that comes with having to, like when I was a manager, I hated it. I hated the stress of not being able to make the decisions that I thought were best. There was a committee of people above me who thought they knew better, and maybe they did, but they also weren't leading from the front. They weren't in the trenches with me. Yeah, so in my opinion, when you devalue my opinion, but you pay me as a manager, you're sending an awkward message that it's like, hey, we want you as the face, but don't talk.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know me, but I'm the talker. Like, screw the face. Like, let me help. Like, come on, bro. Like, you didn't read the temperature of the room. You put me in the wrong position. That's the setup. So
I have been in a couple of enterprise shippers, big name companies that are Fortune 1000s, and everyone knows, my background, whatever. But there is a definite disconnect between the function and the understanding of the function. Mm-hmm. And when you're put in there to do the function, but then you get told by people who don't know what they're talking about,
right?
Yep.
How to do it.
Yep.
Sometimes you just have to do it anyway, and sometimes you have to get in line and follow. So your model is awesome because people that don't or can't operate in that structure can go and jump in there and do their own thing all the time. But I like the structure.
You see how blunt I am on LinkedIn? I'm the same way in a board meeting. I'm the same way as an employee. It was a detriment to my career because I was outspoken, but I don't comprehend just letting stuff slide, especially if you've given me if you've empowered me in a position where I'm supposed to provide value. Like, whether you take my advice or not, or my opinion or not, I'm going to give it. Don't tell me to be quiet.
Right.
Like, if that's
and
what
you
want,
that's the success you feel.
Or I'll just broker. Like, don't ask me to manage and don't allow me to manage at the same time. Like,
that's the success you get from that. And I remember going through that phase where that's what made me good. That's what I remember the owners of our company liked about me, was that I was aggressive. I was on top of things. I made decisions and voiced my opinion and whatnot. And then when you get to a certain size and you get these HR people that come in, and then as you get that much bigger, now your owners go from back when we first started, sitting there booking freight with us, to now living in Florida and stuff, and good for them, right? But at the end of the day, now what was valued is now seen as an issue, and I am not one. I'm just raised differently, man. It's unbelievable how many people will run to owners' leadership if they don't like somebody or they don't like how something's going, and be like, "Oh, this is and I can't do it. I don't do it." And so I remember sitting in the room sometimes and be like, TJ, I don't, this is what I heard, or whatever. I trust you, I know it's, or when I go, and I'm like, is this what it is? Is this what people do? Like, how many calls do you get a day about just bullshit? You know what I mean? Where it's like, I'm too busy. Like, all I think about is making this company money and growing this company. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have time for all this petty bullshit. And as smart as those people were and those leaders were, you'd think they'd see it. You think they see through it, but
it's
at the end of the day, you got to trust who you put in there. And
it's all politics. And I think like, this was my journey. I was a manager for Alan Lund. I have an affinity for the Lund family and my manager, Matt, who taught me everything I know.
It pops up. I Googled you. What was I Googling you for? Oh, for a headshot. And the third, Google thing is Jason Rapide promoted to operations manager at Alan Lund. I'm like, oh my gosh.
That's a good company.
I have an affection for them like you'll never understand. They do things the right way. They taught me how to do things the right way. The culture there was by far the best in any company. I was a lifer, and I just, it was too much to handle. I was a manager that brokered freight still. I was booking the most amount of freight in the office as a manager because I didn't want to give up my book and my customers. I loved what I did. I was good at it. And I'll be honest, it's been many years since I was there. I can say this comfortably. I didn't trust that people were going to take care of my trucks and my customers the way that I did. So I didn't want to give it up. So I just dealt with both, levels of stress. However, my pay now became tied to everybody else in the room. And there are some people in the room that I wouldn't have hired. And so it's just,
that goes a long way because there's two choices. There's two choices you have when you get promoted to a manager. A lot of times it is the top producer. Yeah. And I remember now I had some people that around me that the people that were promoted with me when we really developed were all new to it too. But our owners and everything had experience with it before. So they really preached. And I was really big on the fact that, I couldn't necessarily do that. We were pretty big. I had a lot of things going on and a lot of people and we were just starting. Like Alan Lund had been along in the process. We had, I had to create the carrier sales team, the account man. We went from cradle to grave to that, account management team, track and trace. We were involved in everything. And that's where I really, really got big on processes SOPs, efficiency, and the floor desk, right? Like I always had an office, but I was always out on the floor right in between people, because the same exact thing like you just said, Jason, that feeling of not trusting others to do it as well as you is hard. And unless you could get it down and take it and have the freedom, right, to be able to put something together that's organic, like you said, like I was going to hire people that I thought would work, or do those types of things. If you don't have that, you're in a weird spot, because it really is. It's like
you
be successful, but
you kind of lose your identity, because you're like, you followed this path to get here, and then you have to leave it behind and forge a new path. And so there's a little bit of the unknown. You're learning a management skill. I'm going to be honest. I'll be the first one to tell you, I was a shitty manager. I was a terrible manager. I don't ever want to manage anyone. I will never be a manager of men ever again. I don't want to be responsible for you showing up to do your job. You're a grown-ass man or woman. You signed up for the job. Why do I have to motivate you? Like, I'm supposed to motivate you and myself? Like,
and then as a manager, you got tiptoe around. You got 100%. Tiptoe around the fact that you believe this person's a grown-ass person, should be able to do it. But then HR saying, well, you got to approach it this way. And that was the most frustrating thing for me. I was just straight up like, get shit done. I mean, but
many conversations. Like, I had a kid call out sick because his cat or dog had hiccups, and I was like, FaceTime me right now.
You told me that.
Let me see this. I get a phone call from HR. Jason, you can't ask for that. And I'm like, did you write a manual for us dum-dums? Like, can you tell me give me the can and can't do list. Give me like a quick, like, don't do this. And I'm just like, it's 7:30 in the morning, dude. You're calling out because your dog has hiccups, and then you asked to use a sick day. That pissed me off. I was like, I don't think your dog has sick time. I don't think you could take sick time because your dog is sick, and your dog having hiccups isn't sick. Like, just tell me you're at the beach. I would respect that way more than your dog had burp. Like, bruh, stop. We're brokers.
Your dog will be fine. It's okay. It's not a life-threatening condition.
I'm in sales, man. Don't bullshit me. Just tell me like it is, dude. I would respect that so much more. I need a mental health day. Today's not it for me. Got your back. See you tomorrow.
So we're transition over to the original topic too and I love that discussion. That's what I'm saying. That's why we love the show. We don't really script it, because great conversations are had and you go down every rabbit hole. But I do want to get to the carrier thing. I want to get a couple different things. My experience, of course, from the brokerage side. My experience on the asset side really, really helped me than dealing with it on the brokerage side. And then as management, I used to have to step in on big situations like these. Mm-hmm. And I had owners around me telling me what to do. Right. Tony obviously dealt with it on the shipper side, and then seeing how people have reacted to it. First off, Jason, just lead us in on what the situation you had the other day. Because I lick, and they used to know it. I lick my chops when a carrier wants to bullshit and hold a load hostage and play his little games, because I will win that every single day. I will run circles around them, and I love it. So I want to hear your story on how you did it.
I flexed my muscles yesterday. Yeah. So first of all, the situation took a turn because they didn't pick the load up on time. So this was a 2-pick load out of Canada last Monday. Call the driver. Yeah, I'm good for pickup. Cool. I don't babysit trucks. I mean, I know this is the opposite of what you're supposed to say. I don't track you. You're a grown man. I hired you to do the job. If you don't, I'll fire you. It's that simple, but I'm not going to babysit you. So driver didn't show up to pick up these 2 pickups. I don't get a call. That nothing irks me more than that ever. You're going to do what you want anyway, but at least be a man to tell me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So they go to pick up the first pickup. On the way to the second pickup, customer sends me a note that says, you F this one up. We recovered it at your cost. Oh shit. Okay. Well, took that on the chin. That's the cost of being the boss. Okay. So this 2-pick load made a full truckload. Now they have 1 pick and they have half a truckload. And I tell them, hey, your rate got cut in half. Not only did my rate get cut in half, I wrote a $2,000 check for the recovery. So your rate went from X to, C. And they said, oh, no, we're not moving a finger unless you pay us full price. And I went, it's not really how this works, but we'll figure it out. I need to get this, it's already on your truck. You can't take it back. Like, there's no going backwards here. So they played games. They waited 4 or 5 days trying to find another partial to take with it. And I finally said, dude, why are you looking for another partial? I paid you the full truckload rate. This thing should have already been where it's supposed to be. What are we doing? So you wanted to tax me a full price, and then partial it for additional money. You picked it up not on time. You didn't tell anybody. Now we're late to the delivery. So yesterday it was supposed to be delivered. They call me and say, we don't like how this went. We need cash on payment or cash before we deliver this load. And I said, I need you to think really long and hard before you cement. Is that your final answer? Because once we go there, it's very different. And I said, first of all, you're in Canada. I couldn't even pay you if I wanted to. You don't take com checks. I can't give you a T check. Like, can't Venmo or Zelle you. Like, you're on the island of St. John's in Newfoundland. You're in the middle of nowhere. You spent $1,500 on the ferry to get there. Like, you have no leverage here, none. So I wrote a very well written freight card detailing everything accurate. No tone, just facts. And they called me every 5 minutes all day yesterday. And I just ignored them. And I wrote them an email at the end of the day. And I said, I've called the Royal Mounted Police. I filed a extortion charge because you're extorting us. Deuces. I've filed a claim with your insurance company. Deuces. Okay. And here's the freight card. So I hit him with the bang, bang, bang. They changed their tone real quick. They made the delivery. And then they blew my phone up begging me to take the freight card down. And I said, your parents didn't raise you to appreciate consequences for your actions. Here in America, if you fuck around, you find out. And so these are the consequences of your actions. Well, now I can't get any loads for my truck. I said, funny how that works.
Yep. When
you hold loads hostage and other people find out the way that you operate your business, you're not supposed to be rewarded for that. It's counterintuitive. Now, fast forward to 8 o'clock this morning, those two gentlemen flew to my office and handed me a $1,000 bottle of whiskey.
Yeah.
You can't make this up. They flew from Canada to Scottsdale to my office, which is a virtual office, by the way. They handed it to the secretary at the office. She calls me. I'm at the gym. She's like, two gentlemen just walked in, and I'm thinking, oh, dude, do they come with baseball bats? Who's looking for me? Like, uh-oh. No, these two gentlemen came in from, Brown Bull. They were very sorry about the situation with your load. They gave you a bottle of whiskey. And I'm in recovery. I don't drink. So I said, Merry Christmas. Take that bad boy home. But it's funny how they begged me to take the freight car down, and then they showed up in my office to make things right. Listen, the
couple things though. So my number one rule, and I don't know the situation, and I'm probably not telling you anything you don't know, but I never ever mention a rate reduction until the freight's delivered.
Oh, I didn't. I wasn't going to reduce. They didn't know I was reducing the rate. The conversation was, hey, the rate's being reduced because half of the load got taken away. That's a common sense conversation.
Right. I don't even have that because then.
The thing is, I had to tell them that. I had to.
And I guess for me, when I'm dealing with a lot of different things, I'm looking at it from an efficiency standpoint. I have time to deal with that all day long and all the things that are going on. I'm looking to prevent it. And I know dealing with drivers that you could talk common sense to them all day long. It's like a matter. Yeah. He's going to want his money. And there could be a disconnect between the dispatcher. So leading into that, then the guys fly down. Those guys that flew down, again, I don't know the situation, but I almost always, I mention it. Please get this there on time to avoid a rate reduction. That way it's kind of in there. Yeah. And then I get in with the president of the company, the owner of the company, the ops manager, somebody who gets it, somebody who's at top and understands what a freight guard would do, what a rate reduction would do. We talk to them.
I was dealing with the owner direct the whole time. That's the problem. There was nobody
direct, and then he still flew down.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. See, well, and sometimes you got to flex to show them exactly what you're capable of. But I love what you said there. So I used to have people come to me and they used to say, TJ, can you send out a hammer email? So the hammer email used to be very, very, very well worded. It used to have a snippet of our carrier contract with them. It used to have, it was very, very well worded, and it worked every single time. And at the end, they'd always come back with, well, can you not have such a big rate reduction? Can you have this or that? And I always followed up with, if I do that, I'm not doing anybody any good. And I always put in there, in the future, please make sure to da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Right? It's almost like you're teaching them a lot, because it is. It's like if I gave in, then you're just going to go do it to the next person.
I don't negotiate with I'm going to tell you man to man. I told them straight up as soon as they delivered the load, I said, you are never going to see a penny from me ever. Ever.
Yeah.
You threatened to sue me for an accurate freight card for defamation. You're an idiot. You threatened to hold my load hostage because you know you jacked up, and now you're begging me to take the freight card down. Tell you what, big guy, not only am I not, right, I'm not paying you because I'm going to charge you what the recovery for the second leg that you jacked up was. And then the rest is I'm going to call pain and suffering because I look stupid to a customer on your behalf. I don't need help to look dumb to a customer, but at least I can own it. There's nothing worse than having to explain to a customer why the basic thing didn't happen. Like the stuff you sell, service and communication. Not only did we not service it, we didn't communicate. So I look like an idiot. And I don't fail well. And so they wrote a check.
They need that sometimes, though. Sometimes it's good for them. Like things that go wrong for somebody, they don't want it in the moment. But at the end of the day, it may end up making them better because they could get in that same situation again and say, hey, wow, we don't want to deal with this again. We probably should approach this differently. And I think that's the key. And I think when you get a chance to document then carriers that do handle it correctly, I always try to do that and share that with them as well and say, listen, I've got, if there's, sometimes you get a shipper that's got weird loading requirements or something like that where you could run into those issues. It's a possibility. And I document how the carriers that did well, and I use that as well as a not only a training guide for my people, but also for the other carriers because I was in that role of managing a fleet and knew how to handle it. And so if they weren't doing it that way, it was like, hey, listen, man, if you want to continue, I mean, it's got to be done this way. I mean, that's it. You may get some people to let it slide, but it shouldn't. Tony, what's your take on that situation from the super side?
I agree with what happened, how it went down and what you did. That's awesome. I had a situation where when I was at Lippert, we were shipping windows out to a customer in Pennsylvania. All of these things go on returnable dunnage. They're called an L buck. It looks like an L. They stack. You can put 7 of them high. They interlock, so you don't have to band them together. And we get like 60, 70 on a truck, empty, stacked on a return trip. We'll occasionally have to pay a outside driver, contractor, whatever, to pick up racks because our guys aren't able to get them all. Well, you tell them what you need, where it's at, and how many, and they'll show up and they'll get 20 single stacked front to nose to tail on the trailer. And then we don't know that. They show up at the dock and you're like, oh my gosh, this is a third of a truckload.
Yep.
And then they want full price. And I'm like, no. That's not how it works, guys. This is not what we did not agree to 20. We agreed to 60, 65. You can't make the shipper or our customer on the return side stack them and return them right. So, but you need to at least say, hey guys, we need to do better than 20 single stack.
Yep.
You can, common sense says you can put more than this on there. And it's basic math. Like you can look at 20 of them stacked in a row, or you can look at 20 of them in 2 or 3 stacks and go, wow, I've got a lot of floor space here.
Yeah.
And the problem is you have to unload them. You can't turn them away. You need the racks to continue production. As they come off the line, you have to stack them on the racks. And it becomes an argument with the carrier, and the carrier is not the one that did it. But yet, if you go through a broker or if you go direct to a carrier, it's still up to the driver to say something at the loading point.
1,000%.
Yes.
They're out on the dock. They can't, count cases. But my rate confirmation says X amount of cases, skids, totes, whatever. And if that paperwork doesn't agree with that, I have in huge writing.
Give me a call.
You are to call me if there are any discrepancies before you leave that dock. And I'm anal about that stuff.
Don't show up at my dock.
Nobody wants to get out of the truck. Nobody will get out of the truck anymore.
You don't have to get out of the truck. It's 2 pieces of paper and a, hey, Siri, text XYZ. Like, you don't have to do it.
At the end of the day, though, you should get out of the truck, make sure that you look at the load and make sure it's loaded correctly.
Yeah.
You still have to shut the doors.
Well, a lot of it is a language barrier, too. I hate to say that.
Well, you know what? If you want to make it,
it's not an excuse. It's true. But it's like, what are you supposed to do?
Shake a hand is not language. Shaking a hand and looking at the trailer is not. That's not language barrier.
Yeah.
And numbers.
It's just an excuse.
Well, and so what I do now is I require them to text me the BOL before they leave. I don't even let them tell me there's a problem. They show me, hey, part of this SOP is if you want full price, which I'm happy to pay you, but there are some requirements here, right? Like before you leave, you are to text me the BOL for every load that I do. And that way I have it. I know the product is right. Right then and there, I can see if the carrier name is listed correctly on there, so I can avoid some issues in terms of compliance right on the spot. I don't say anything always right away, but case counts are huge. I move a lot of stuff into Canada, and if the commercial invoice going to customs doesn't match what's on the bills, dude, I've had a Canadian inspector yank apart an entire trailer and charge me $1,000 for it over 4 cases difference. Never again will I let that happen ever.
Here's the problem that I have, it's returnable dunnage. They don't care.
Yeah,
They'll put 75 on the bill of lading, even though it's 20 on the trailer. Returnable dunnage. And getting that back out of Canada was always fun too, because there's no you have to give them a value, even though it's just returnable dunnage.
Yep.
Right. And then you get to pay tariffs on the importing of your returnable dunnage.
Yep.
And I love what you said though, because one of my favorite, just kind of veering a little bit here, but things to do and say, like, there's all these different things. I love dealing with these situations just because at first you hate it, but then you're like, come on, bring what do you got? But I loved when they would come back and be like, all right, we're taking it back to the shipper. I'm telling you what works every time is I just go, okay, cool, great. What's your ETA so I can let them know? They'll be ready for you and they'll get you unloaded. Unfortunately, you obviously didn't deliver the load, so we won't be able to pay you. But go ahead and head back. I'll let them know you're coming, and that's absolutely fine. And every single time you do that, they're like, well, it's like, because to them, there's no benefit taking it. Why are we even saying that? Like, how does that benefit anybody taking it back to the shipper? What's that going to do? Half the time, they won't even unload you.
I was going to say, I'm not taking it. Okay, legally, what carriers don't realize is legally, in terms of the actual law, as soon as that truck is shut and they sign the POD, they own the product. They are the legal owners of that product until it is signed for at the consignee. If it shifts, it wasn't shifted when you shut the doors. It shifted in it, like you agreed that it was safely secured. You didn't say anything. Now, granted, melons and stuff have a notorious issue with tipping, and like that's just a claim heavy industry. But in the grand scheme of things, you signed for it. You were responsible for it to get there, and it didn't get there the way that it was put in your truck. You are 100% responsible. Sorry. Mm-hmm. So if you've got to pay to rework it, if there's damages, it's being deducted. That's just the cost of business, And like some customers are cool and will help you with that, but for the most part, they have every prerogative. Deuces, that's on you.
You got to speak up at the time of loading if that doesn't look like it's going to make it.
Yes.
As a driver.
Yes.
The best drivers always say something.
I'll run through walls for you. I'll go to the customer and say, look, that driver doesn't feel safe driving it. Here are the pictures. I'm not there to co-sign what he's saying, but he's the professional.
Take some pictures.
It's his truck. If he doesn't feel comfortable with it, I don't, Now, if you say, hey, send it. Okay, well, you're accepting liability, Mr. Customer. You said send it, but,
It's that point right there where you have to make the deal.
Yeah.
That's the point, right? Not after the fact.
No.
Right. Yes. Yeah. And the best drivers get out, they see it, and they'll say, no, you got to rewrap that, or you got to restack that, or that needs to restrack. You got to do that differently. Yes, I may not be able to touch the freight, but this needs done.
The new guys don't know that yet. So, there's the seasoned professionals, and then there's your first year driver who's still wet behind the ears. He doesn't know yet. So, one of the things that I ask when I'm vetting a carrier, the driver that you have picking it up, how many years experience does he have? I kind of want to know what it is that I'm going to deal with. Because if you tell me he's got 2 years experience, I'm on the phone and I'm educating that driver immediately to my expectations. Because some of these guys don't know what brokers expect because their dispatchers don't relay what we need from them. That's why back in the day when I did dispatch, I never dispatched the dispatcher. That's the dumbest thing you could ever do. You dispatch the truck personally. You can never rely on a company's dispatcher to tell that driver everything I need him to know, ever. And if you do, you own that because you didn't dispatch that truck the right way. So with my regulars, I don't worry about it. The new guys, especially if it's your first load, that driver is a representative of that company, and I want it to go smooth. And I don't want to risk losing a customer because I wasn't thorough and available to the driver. So first thing I do is I send them a text. This is who I am. I'm 24/7. If you need anything, here I am. Please let me know when you get to the shipper. Here's everything in writing. Please reply you understand. Because a conversation can't be replayed, but in writing, it's black and white. Here it is. Bang, bang. You agreed to it. I told you I was available. You didn't call me. You failed all the way down this list. And so
rate cons.
Shit, nobody reads those, dude.
The thing is too. So from the asset side, this is what I always said. A huge percentage of the time, the dispatcher and the driver do not get along. That happens all the time because dispatchers a lot of time they're older. They don't have any incentive. They don't really care. And when you send that rate con, they still have to build it in their system and then send it. They're not sending your rate con to the driver a lot of times.
Yeah.
So they leave a lot of information out. So like what you said, I still do it. I still to this day. Just 2 shipments today even. I go in and I try to preach this. Nobody does it, but I go into the driver, I get his number, and I text him and say, "Hey, this is TJ." This is like one of the few times when throwing your title out there kind of helps. I'm like, "Hey, regional vice president over here, big shipment for me. You have any issues, you let me know." And it's so funny because 90% of the time they almost always come back with questions. They should have asked their dispatcher, like, "Hey, when I get there, can I do this?" Or "How late are they going to?" Or "Can I go straight through?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, you're supposed to go straight through. It's on the rate con." Yeah, you know what I mean? Like I'm thinking, that's what I'm thinking to myself, and I'm like, dude, I'm so glad I do this because if not, the dispatcher just not giving the info.
Well, I asked this too. This is one of the biggest questions you can ask. Are you a company driver or an owner operator? Owner operators will do whatever they want. A company driver will follow their SOPs. They have certain requirements. There's some rogue company drivers out there, but how I talk to a driver is 100% based on their position. You own the truck. You're the boss. I don't even need to talk to your dispatcher. That dude works for you. You're the boss. Cool. Now I know I can negotiate detention with them. All of that stuff can be handled right there with that one point of contact. On the company driver's side, man, I'm always hesitant. I'm like, oh man, what's your dispatcher line to tell you to do? Because he knows you got to pick up another load. He wants you to funky your hours. And I'm like, I don't trust it. I get anxiety when it comes to that stuff. And listen, call me biased, but if I call a dispatch and it sounds like they're in a factory with 700 people, I go, fuck, dude. Like, how many people between the dude I'm talking to get to the driver? That's why the driver is key for me. I deal directly with the driver because, like you said, the dispatch and the driver, they don't always get along. They don't want to pick this load up. He could have been home already. Like, he's just, I get it. But,
and that's a great point there. I like that you said that. Love the show. That question there. I've asked it a couple times when I've sniffed it out a little bit, but it's a good one to ask every time because the other thing with company drivers too, like what you just said you're going to deal with is it's a great way to throw up a red flag when it comes to tracking requirements, geofencing, and theft because a lot of times, like you said, hours wise and trailer wise, right? A lot of times they got to get through a yard because they've got another load they got to get to, and somebody else is going to deliver that load. Right. So you can waste all your time setting tracking up. Right. Yep. And then you get one of these brokers that comes and goes, he's tracking over in Elk Grove Village. Oh, I'm like, yeah, he has since 11 p.m. last night when he stopped there. You know what I mean? It's not the same driver. Somebody else has the freight. Yeah. Now we got to figure out who has the freight. So understanding that it's not, an owner operator, some of them, we had owner ops that swap trailers, but a lot of times they have their trailers. So you don't have to worry about that as much, but it gives you an idea of what you may end up dealing with so you can be out ahead.
Yeah. And, at the end of the day, I move a lot of the same customer's freight. So I know the ins and the outs. I know the deal. My biggest pet peeve, and I'm probably not alone on this, is when a driver calls my shipper or receiver and renegotiates a delivery time or like, I'm cool if you call the shipper to ask if there's parking, but don't backdoor me. Don't backdoor me. Don't ever backdoor me. And I had a lady last week say, I've been out here 15 years. I'm not going to have some broker tell me how to do my job. Well, I'm your customer, and so you're fired. That's all. Yeah.
And that's tough. And that is what you'll hear. And Ingrid says it all the time. A lot of these drivers have been around a long time. That's how it used to be. And then she's like, I'm calling every single time because then you look at it from their side. She's like, I've been burned so many times on being told this is what it is. She's like, and I don't call the back door. I'm very cordial and I'm like, hey, what do we got going here? Now there's some that take advantage of that, but she's like, I'm calling every time, no matter what I'm calling. Just
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. If you need to call if I were in a truck, I would do the same thing too. My issue is it's a first come, first serve delivery, and you're going to be a little late, and then you negotiate with them that you're going to be there tomorrow before you tell me, and my customer tells me the truck's going to be late before the truck does. Hell's no. I'll come unglued for that. That is not acceptable. And so that happened to me last week where they didn't tell me they broke down. They had already called the receiver and said, we'll be there in the morning. So my customer set me up. She's like, what's an ETA? As far as I know, it's 3 o'clock. Let me make a phone call. And then I hop on the phone, and little do I know, they've already talked to the receiver, arranged being there tomorrow. And if I would have told her, yeah, we'll be there at 3:30 after they were already told they were broke down, it means that I didn't talk to them. I don't, like I said, I don't fail well. Just communicate. It's not hard.
There's situations where that's okay. Like when you get a driver that's on a lane that he runs a lot.
Yes.
Like say I've got some like both sides stopper. They get to know, and they actually know. They know the people that unload. Like I'm calling Bill. It's like Dunham's was one. You go to multiple stores, right? I'm calling Bill up there and asking him if I can deliver. Although the driver still relayed that to me, though he didn't just do it.
Yeah.
But he got to know them at least, and then negotiated after we got and they loved him. So they're like, "Oh yeah, come on in, man. We'll get you unloaded."
If you have a regular carrier, they're an extension of your company. They kind of have earned that right to do that. And I'm okay with that as long as you communicate with me so that the three of us are all on the same page. It's not
like an idiot. Yeah. Yeah.
So like Ingrid said, she's been burned a bunch of times. I totally get that because there's shitty brokers out there. But then you have carriers and dispatchers who do that behind the scenes, and then we get burned. So everybody has their hand in the cookie jar, and sometimes we come up empty. I mean, we all have, we've had those scenarios, and I feel bad for the trucks, man. Now that I own a truck, I'm a little hesitant to have to come in from the other side and deal with brokers because I know how they are. I know how some of them are. And I start looking up, credit scores. I start looking up ratings and reviews. Like as a carrier, I don't know if a broker is bad. They don't have a carrier 401 for brokers, really. They really don't.
Right.
So like look up Google reviews or DAT reviews. DAT reviews are huge. Nobody leaves.
You've got enough connections though. Like if I were you, I'd be reaching out to people and being like, hey, what do you have in this area?
I'm not stressed. I have direct customers, but in order to grow the fleet, in order to grow the owner ops, we're gonna have to get set up with some brokers. And I'm like,
the back calls.
Yep. I have anxiety considering having to be on the other side of the fence because listen, anybody listening, you're gonna hate me for saying this. As a broker, I have all the leverage. I'm the one paying you. If you mess up, you're not getting paid in full. It's that simple.
Right.
Like I don't deduct people for stupid things, but like when there's a need for a deduction, it's happening. Sorry.
But that's the difference between the two sides.
The brokers steal from the carriers left and right, dude. And there are some bad brokers, just like there's some bad carriers. So my job's going to be, I'm going to take it the same way that I take the approach to the carrier. If you mess up, I just won't use you again. So if I deal with a broker, it doesn't need to get crazy because I know they'll write stupid freight cards. I'll just not use you again. Now I have to hold my tongue much differently from the carrier to the broker conversation when I'm on the other side of the fence because they will write a freight card for no reason. I know.
So I will say this. So I was in on the brokerage side too, and then doing both with carrier, and then overseeing our fleet, and then back to brokerage. When I was on the asset side though, it's amazing because you deal with a lot of young brokers too. Okay, but it's amazing the difference between how you communicate with them compared to a lot of these carriers. So just the way you talk, your knowledge, things like that, they're going to buy in on it, immediately. Like, so you dictate, like I always told this to my dispatchers too. We are going to dictate the situation. Like if this is what it is, then this is the hours we have. So this is what we're going to do. Yep. I need to make sure that's in writing. Right. Or, hey, this is the rate we're at. This is what it's got to be. If we're going to put, for back calls for if I'm going to deal with somebody I know, because that was my whole goal was to get for back calls for brokers was to deal with people I knew. I'm only dealing with this guy. That's it. Yep. That's all it is. And that's the only way I'll do business. I don't want to get handed off to anybody else. That's how it's going to work. And if something goes wrong, I am not going through the broker. I'm going to the manager, to the person who knows, because then I can have a logical conversation. And compared to most carriers, the conversation you have is going to sound a lot better. You're going to go a lot farther because you have that brokerage side knowledge and you're articulate. So I think you'll be just fine.
I will. And I mean, it's going to happen, but I'm going to tell you this right now. I'm going to read every rate confirmation thoroughly, because the thing that the shady guys like to do now is say that they're offering $2,000 for the truckload. It's $1,400 and $300 for on-time pickup and $300 for on-time delivery. I'm getting on an airplane.
$200 for accepting tracking.
I'm gonna come visit you. You try to slide that in on me, buddy. We're not playing that. You hired me to do the job. Tell me what you expect from me, but don't put these unrealistic, fees. Because here's the thing with tracking, I can turn MacroPoint off. I could, if you're macro pointing and I'm a broker, I could turn that bad boy off and say you turned it off the whole time and ding you $300 if I wanted. I could play that shady game, and I know brokers do that 100%.
Yeah,
I am not gonna play that game. So instead of me accepting their tracking, we're just gonna have Samsara, and we're gonna provide you our live tracking. If you don't like it, we won't do business. But we're not gonna give you the leverage to tell me how your tracking software works, where you can turn it on and off. I also don't want you to keep MacroPoint on my driver's phone for an extra 6 hours and watch where he goes next. Now you know where our next load was. You can piggyback and because look, everybody does that. You turn it on 3 hours early and 3 hours after, and you know where they went for their pickup and their previous delivery. You now have leads to go solicit business. There's data you can extract from, and it's an invasion of privacy. It's immoral to me. So I'll provide you our tracking. Hey, deuces. It's not, I'm just going to reverse engineer the pain points that I see in the marketplace and do my best to live within my healthy boundaries.
That's what it is. Yeah. And so a lot of times I figured out that, and as well as I do, to get some good freight, if you want to go back haul, sometimes it's not the broker that requires, it's actually the customer. Yeah. Now, the way things are integrated nowadays, you can usually, I don't care if you got to do 4 kites, if that's what the customer needs, and you can have MacroPoint, you can have it switched and sent over through 4 kites. But my biggest thing was getting in and figuring out in those websites then how I could add my fleet and my trucks to it so that they could just go in if I wanted to use them, and they could just type in the truck number, name and truck number, and then it's all automatically in MacroPoint already.
It's already there. Yeah. I like that. Well, there's some vetting services.
Sarah will link with it.
There's some vetting services out there that track your P44. Well, if none of your customers are Project 44 trackers, what are you, just like blackballed? Because like there's some variables out there that are just
it can all be integrated now and kicked into whatever format it's needed. That's a big thing now. Like it works 3DI and stuff.
I bought a box truck. I'm staying local box truck. I didn't buy a semi. It's a 26,000 pound, no CDL.
You won't get a lot of tracking requests on that. That means you offense the product, but.
Dude, I'm taking the framework of my brokerage where I have my own broker business and I offer agents a split. Now I own my own truck that I can go pick up on the weekends, nights, and whatever, just to get out and go meet customers and have some experience on the truck.
You're doing it?
I'm 100% going to do it, yeah.
You're driving?
Yeah.
Oh, you're in Phoenix, man.
Dude, within 50 miles in any direction, I've run out of town. It's all desert. So like my range is 100 miles max. I'm home every night if I drive, but the owner opportunity is what I'm looking to do, is bring in owner operators on the box truck and Sprinter side, and especially new box truck guys. They're not going to be able to get set up for 6 months, but they have a truck. Come lease onto me for 6 months. I'll show you the game. I'll charge you 8%. And then when you leave, we'll dispatch you for 3%. You go run on your own authority. So there's just opportunity.
Local customers with the box truck are huge. I told Luis Claudio this, and it worked really well for him.
Good.
The best thing you could do from to get set up with a new customer, drive the truck to them.
Yep.
I told him that. He's like, I emailed the guy, and he's like, you come back around. I'm like, that's because he doesn't know who you are.
Yeah.
Go bobtail in your semi over there, park up front, leave it running.
Bang, bang, selfie right there.
Go shake his hand and say, hey, I'm a local guy that wants to run. And every single time they're like, oh, is that your truck? Oh, all right, okay. It's totally different than some email you're trying to put together where they don't know who the hell you are. So that's a big thing, and that could work really well for you.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm fortunate enough that as a company, we have 150 customers. So we have no shortage of direct customers that will 100% give us asset freight. 100%.
Local though?
All the time. Yeah, I mean, U-Haul, local all the time. Definitely.
Okay.
Now, I will have to get set up with some brokers and learn some stuff, but I've got some guys who do some final mile white glove stuff, and there's opportunity. I'll be honest, I'm not in the truck to make a bunch of money. It is a segue to the owner operator agent model. That's really all it is. It allows me to understand all of the things that I need to know in order to sell why somebody should lease onto us. Because as a new box truck owner, you don't know how to run the business side. Now I do. You don't understand the insurance, like all of the things that you think you know. You now have a mentor, and you can have freight right away.
Because and to the driver, there's credibility.
Yes.
I mean, I had a lot of success as a shipping manager hiring drivers for our fleet because I still maintain my CDL.
Yeah. Yep.
I can jump in the truck and go with them and show them, hey, here's where we're going. This is just across town. Here's how you do this. You whip in here like this. And then they're like, wow, we've never had anybody in charge that knew how to do our job.
Well,
and you took care of them.
On the broker side, I sell to agents because I broker freight. Same thing. Now I can go get in the truck. Now, this is what's great about having this kind of dual position here is now I can go to customers and say I have assets, which I never had that opportunity before. Now, are they going to accept it because I have a local box truck? You know, I'm looking for specific customers, but we can say we have assets. Some don't just care that you have an MC number. They don't even care if they're going to get your assets. They just need the asset information to set you up. Cool.
Jason, don't overthink it. If you've got a box truck, don't overthink it with a box truck. You just, to start off, get Selectus.
Yeah.
Get on Selectus. Like when I retire, I've already told Tony this. I'm going to buy a Sprinter van.
Yeah.
I'm going to drive up every weekend. I'm going to post up in Jackson, Michigan.
Okay.
And I'm going to get on Selectus. And I'm going to make $8,000 in a weekend running 2 loads. I'll run a box of bolts from Detroit to Lansing, and then I'll run something from Lansing down to like Toledo in my Sprinter van and make $4,000 a pop.
Done.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah. I like it.
Dealing with good people on Selectus. Obviously, you have to be a good carrier because it's very, very strict. But as long as you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, you can make very, very efficient, a lot of money in a little bit of time.
Yeah.
Without having to worry about too much, especially if you're going to go box truck Sprinter van. I mean, that's the way to do it. My whole expert was based off that.
The small truck game has so much less overhead. I don't have to worry. I don't have to worry about 90% of the problem. IFTA, not a thing. I'm in Phoenix. I don't leave the state. I don't have to hire a driver. My overhead's lower. The maintenance on the truck's cheaper. You know, the insurance.
The mileage is triple.
I bought a box truck for $20,000 with 80,000 miles on it.
You got a lift gate?
Own it. Yeah. Got a rear lift gate. I own it cash.
There you go.
Bought it. Paid for insurance. Those are my 2 expenses. A little bit of maintenance, truck parking, and me driving. So even if I broke for the year, I had a write-off. I started a new company. I get all the benefits of a startup. But if, 5, 10 owner-operators are running out there and, I'm not talking taking 20%, 15%. 8% is fine. I don't have a lot of overhead. Like, I'm not greedy. 8% is healthy.
Is it dock high?
It's dock high.
All right. Do you have the shift for the lift gate so that you can lock to the dock?
Everything. I have everything. It's a high cube. It's 103. So or 102 by like 96. So I can fit the big U-Haul boxes.
The 26-footer?
Yeah. Yep. So I don't need a CDL. Technically, legally, if I park it at home and leave less than 150 miles a day, I don't even technically need an E-log. But, there's some weird laws there. But I'll have an E-log. The insurance likes it. It is what it is. But, dude, local
is it a Mitsubishi Fuso?
Say it again?
Mitsubishi Fusos are my all-time favorite truck. We've all seen them. You know what I'm talking about. They're like the cab over box trucks.
The International 4300. So, 80,000 miles. It's a 2011. It's 15 years old. It's had very minimal miles on it. And
is it cute?
Is it what?
Is it cute?
Bro, I don't do anything that's not cute. What's wrong with you? Come on now. Dude, I got bougie with it. I got a backup cam because I've never backed one of these big sumbitches up. I don't know if I'm going to. Listen, I'm comfortable not knowing what the fuck I don't know.
Don't tell any other drivers you have that.
Bro, listen, I'm going to go to some open docks and bump some docks in the middle of the night so I know what I'm doing in the dark before I try to do it in front of a customer look stupid. I'll be damned if I get out and I have to ask old Johnny B over here to help back my box truck up, dude. That's
Here's
just
a tip. Here's a tip. If they have lines in the dock, you want your driver's side rear outside dual tire just inside the line. So if this is the line, you want the tire right here.
there you go.
Not on the line, you want it right next to the line.
The other thing I learned too is like it's weird to back up here. If I steering wheel down here, it makes sense because it goes the right way. But when you're up here, I gotta think. I don't want to think, dude. Just let's
That's
go.
a straight truck, all right. Now put a truck and trailer on that articulates, and it's backwards again.
Nope. No, I have nothing but respect for dudes who, like, when I'm driving around town and I see these dudes jackknife into a short spot, I'm like, damn, dog. Like the anxiety that I would have trying to back my truck up in between two trucks at a truck stop in the dark.
That's tough.
Oh,
Yeah.
in a rainstorm. There's guys who'll do it in a rainstorm, wind.
That's never going to be me. Ever, ever, ever. I also have the attention span of a meatball, dude. I couldn't drive for 11 hours a day and not kill people. Like, in a truck, I'm just cooling around, listening to music, I'm home, cool. In a dude, the amount of attention that they have to pay to everyone around them and be engaged and not kill people is incredible. And to have to do it for 11 hours a day, every day, all day, nothing but respect for these guys.
And you have to anticipate them being stupid. And when you leave enough room in a metro area to have your safe following distance, the legal safe following distance, I guarantee you that is called a vacuum. Everybody gets in it. All you can do is go backwards in traffic when you try and leave a safe following distance.
It's like going on a motorcycle.
Tailgating you, it's because there's a vacuum if we don't.
So you said you're going to work on the weekends. That's all I'm going to do. I'm going to post my truck at 4 p.m. on a Friday. There's going to be less competition for my truck on a Friday afternoon. If it's a Friday for Friday or Friday for Monday, a couple $100 in the truck. I don't have less traffic. Like, it's a good setup. I'm not trying to jump in a truck full time. And if I land an account that's consistent, I'll put a driver behind it. But I'm just looking to make sure that I'm diversified because too many people get comfortable. And when you get comfortable, shit gets dicey. So I'm constantly making myself uncomfortable.
Get on Selectus though, because I don't know how many box trucks I've ordered. And I've always come up with like
not cheap.
good ways of doing it. Because if you get on there, what I'm saying is I've ordered a lot of trucks to just meet the driver at a destination to help unload the because they need a lift gate and it's just expensive to find a logistics drive in. And there's a lot of work to be done just with that local. Just meet people at shippers and whatever to help them load. With a pallet jack into their this is the fun part. I now get to speak to drivers as a driver. Something I've never been able to talk to them from that point of view. Right? So how to secure a load? Not sure yet. We're going to figure it out. How to make sure the stuff gets loaded and unloaded and count, like the whole thing that I rely on people to do from the comfort of my own home, I now have to go out and do for somebody. So
I'll tell you what, you're going to change how you talk and how you see things, and you're going to start learning to see things in a whole new world, man. Yeah, that's what I love. The willingness to learn is key.
I'm going to be that much more of an asshole to people who don't do it the right way because now I know what I'm talking about. Like, so there's a catch-22 there. So I'm going to hold people more accountable because I'm going to be like, dog, right. I do it for a living as well. This is common sense, man. How do you have a CDL? Who let you drive a truck?
And it works. I mean, I used to have to go to the yard. I learned how to, chain on D-rings and Conestogas and landing gears and all the different shit that I learned so much from drivers. It does. It helps tremendously holding other people accountable on the fact that I know exactly what you're talking about. And no, that's not how it works. Go out, do this.
My mechanic showed me 97 grease points underneath this truck. I looked at him like, what are you talking about right now? What are you talking about? You're a grown man. You need to grease your own truck. I said, bro, these hands are getting that dirty. No, you could grease my truck for me, big dog. I don't even care if you tell people. Like, I'm not getting under that. Sheesh. Like, how often am I supposed to do this? He's like, well, Phoenix is hot. I'm not getting under that truck and doing all that for 200 miles a weekend. What are you talking about? But he showed me, like, he went through everything with this truck, and I was overwhelmed at just how much shit there is. And I'm like, damn, this is 26 feet out of 53. Like, imagine a full, like, no.
Get the electric, the battery, the Milwaukee or the
already ordered it. Yeah, I'm not. Come on.
He's other WD-40.
Come on, baby. And I mean, Arizona's hot. It's a hot climate. So
You got to get a big sticker. You got to get creative, and you got to get some big sticker that people start recognizing you driving around town. And they're like, "Hey, there's the whatever truck, right?" Or there's the something really cool looking, like maybe me and Tony on the side, like
you can get our logo.
Listen,
where is it? Right there.
One thing box truck drivers don't do is they don't have cool trailer,
no, they don't.
livery at all. So, I named the company Max Freight Lines after my dad. So we're naming the truck lines Max Truck Lines. Simple. So Max Freight Lines on one side, advertising the brokerage. Max Truck Lines on here, hiring agents on the
Mad Max across the top.
Dude, I like that.
Mad Max across the front.
Yeah, but dude, when I take out a family of 4 crossing traffic because I don't know what I'm doing, now they know who I am, And I say that lightly.
Or they go to sue you and they're like, well, it does say Mad Max on his truck.
You know how many people call me a week and tell me my drivers almost killed them because Max Truck Lines in Chicago? They call me and start yelling at 2 or 3 times a week. I get a phone call. Hey, man, your drivers are idiots. I'm like, I'm a broker, dog. They don't understand what it means. I'm like, I don't own a truck. Why you call it Max Freight Lines? I'm like, fuck. The wrong name, dude.
That's why I would pull the MC off the side of the truck.
Sheesh.
Yeah, the people that are calling in on trucks aren't pulling the MC, bro.
I know.
Definitely not. Well, they don't even know what it is. They just see Max and they Google it. I'm like, shit.
Right.
It's always the same one. I actually called this company and said, hey, man, I don't know how you guys roll, but I get a lot of complaints for your drivers. It's a problem. I'm a broker. I wouldn't hire you, right? Like, you probably have a conditional safety rating for a reason. Right, so
they're like, we'll be all right.
Yeah. So
all right, guys. Hey, we got to roll.
Okay.
We're over time. We can talk all day. I love it. That's
Absolutely.
why I want to have you on. Always a good conversation.
Appreciate you, boys. I'm always down to talk shit. You know that. I try to stay off LinkedIn. I told you I wasn't going to come back, but when the homie calls,
you got to come back.
Well, we did. I'll be back at the early beginning of the year. I think after the election and the crazies sort their shit out, I'll be back. But for the next 5 months, I'm gonna grind and we'll see. We're in deep shit. I don't know how you guys feel, but it doesn't matter who or what is our president.
We're going into it. I can't.
Nope. That's a whole new show.
Love you guys. Have
Thanks,
a safe.
Yeah. Glad you were here, brother.
I appreciate you guys. You guys have a safe weekend. We'll talk to you soon.
Hold my
Thanks for
beer.
coming on, buddy.
Great. Brought to you by McClay's.